So I kind of, sort of, maybe read 31 books, sort of, in the month of July, and we are going to go through all of the books that I read. I will be honest, July was sort of one of those months that I didn't have a great time, let's just say. I had a bit of a summer sad that hit me for, I want to say, like 2 to 3 weeks. It got pretty tough. And so I actually reread a graphic novel series twice. So that took up like a bulk of my reading, just living in that universe to try to escape my sadness and just like feel any kind of joy and not loneliness. So we'll talk about that. But let's talk about the few books that I read before it got to that point. The first one being 5 by Ilona Bannister. This was the Literally Dead book club pick for the month of June. And I read it. And I was able to listen to the live show, which was exciting for me because I've been kind of behind. Not super behind, but I don't usually get to catch them live. And this is one that I actually despised. I really did not have fun. It's basically 5 characters. You get each of their perspectives on this train ride where somebody's going to die. And it's more so a mystery than thriller or horror. And it's basically just the life of these characters, what led them to this moment in time, and like what happened. I think that this book went in the direction that I think is the only way to do it. I did not like the characters. I am not really a big fan of character studies. I much prefer a plot-heavy book. I like there to be a lot going on. So it was not my personal favorite. I can understand the appeal to a lot of people if you enjoy a more character-driven story. But for me, I was just like, I don't really care about any of these people. I was never hooked. The audiobook production was fantastic because it's set on a train, and so you get these like interludes of what's happening on the train before going back to the next person's chapter that like led them to this event. And so I did appreciate that, and like the production of it all kept me engaged, and also it wasn't very long, so I wasn't like super bothered to be reading it. But it was not a favorite of mine. It is not one that I'm going to think about or reflect upon in the future. It's kind of like in one ear out the other. Like, I'm glad I got to participate, did not care about the book whatsoever. The next book, oh boy howdy, the next book I finished, and I will not say I completely read, but the next book that I finished was The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow. I had started this, I want to say November of 2025. I kid you not, exactly 50% into this and then put it down because the first part was pretty slow and not the most engaging. And I think I've done a hindrance to myself because I took so long to pick it back up. I was waiting a really long time to get the audiobook back from Libby, so it wasn't entirely my fault. But, I mean, yeah, obviously I have it in my hands. I could have just physically read it, and maybe that would have been a preferred way to do so than listening to the audiobook. I adore Six Deaths of the Saint. It is one of the best short stories I think that has ever graced this earth. It's phenomenal. I don't know if I can say the same about The Everlasting. Everybody seems to love this and get the same feeling that they got from the short story, and I just didn't feel that, and it could very well be a me problem because, again, I did not read it in a cohesive time period and I just picked it up bits and pieces, and like I was not giving it the attention that I think it needed. But at the same time, I didn't love the new edition of not Ula but the guy Owen. I didn't really care so much about him and his perspective, which is unfortunate. I really liked Ula, and I really liked the roots of where the short story came from. I don't know if it necessarily needed a full-length novel, but that could just, again, be my experience with it, and perhaps if I read this again in the future and give it another try, it will work better for me, and I'll be able to give it the care that it needs. But it was nice to at least finish something that's been sitting on my current readings Goodreads shelf for literally ever. Like, I really try my best to go into the new year with like a clean slate. That did not happen for 2026, so it felt nice to finish something, even though I wasn't able to give it like a high acclaimed, yes, it was so good by the end. But if you are unfamiliar, this is about Ula and the many lives that she lives as she kind of gains notoriety. She is a famous historical figure, and Owen has some type of connection to her and is like traveling to save her. I think I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad book. It did not work for me the way that I hoped and wished that it would, and the way that it seems to for so many others. But that could also be reader error, as we have stated. Then I got to visit one of my favorite, I guess, subgenres in a way. I just really love vibe-heavy, whimsical fantasies. There's something about them. It's anything similar to Caraval. I eat it up. I love it so much. I don't care if it's young adult. It works so well for me. And the one that I got to pick up this month was Midnight on the Celestial. This is by Julia Alexandra, and I had a lot of fun with it. It's not a perfect book by any means. It's not the most gripping or engaging, but there were some horror elements that they were so delicious. I loved those moments, but also just I like the characters for the most part. I thought the magic system was very cool. Overall, a pretty solid story. I think I ended up giving it like 4 stars. This is about a girl who I don't want to say loses her magical abilities because they're more so taken from her. It's not necessarily like she has done something wrong like the synopsis kind of says, but she basically can go the rest of her life with no magic, or she has the opportunity to spend some time on the Midnight Celestial, which is this cruise that a bunch of, I guess, failed magic users are able to compete for a second chance to test again in hopes of regaining their magical abilities. But in doing so, they also have to kind of give some of their elements to the ship and making sure that everything goes smoothly for the incredibly wealthy guests who are all paying high price tags so that they can be on this cruise and get the best experience possible. Our main girl does not have the best opportunity. People already from the beginning don't like her. Her family has a lot of ties to the cruise. She is not really meant to be here. She does not quite belong with the rest, but she soon finds her found family, and you get to see her explore the cruise that you really shouldn't be left alone in, especially not at night, or some things might find you in the shadows. And I love those moments so much. They were so creepy. I thought the audiobook was a lot of fun. I really liked this overall. It missed something. There was something not quite there that prevented this from being a 5-star, but it was a very solid whimsical fantasy that had so many elements that I really enjoyed, and I highly recommend this. And then I kicked off my summerween reading vlog, so I'm not going to go into depth with a lot of these books, but I read 9 Lives, Teddy Bears Never Die, Vile Lady Villains, and since reading Vile Lady Villains and you seeing my review of that, I am now interested, especially because the new Odyssey movie just came out. I'm interested in picking up, I can't say her name, Clemenstra? I don't know if that was correct. She's the wife of one of the guys. And she's like kind of a vile lady villain, if you will. I am interested in kind of reading her story and seeing like what's going on with her a little bit more in depth, since I'm really not interested in Greek mythology and I super don't know much about it. So I think I'm going to be interested in picking that one up. So stay tuned for eventually when that talk happens. And then I also read What the Woods Took, which I think this was my favorite for that entire video. I definitely enjoyed everything about this. It was so good. This is by Courtney Good, who I adore. She is a young adult author who primarily writes a lot of sapphic horror, and I really like her stuff. This one really shattered my heart in a lot of ways because we were talking about a wilderness retreat for the troubled teens, if you will, and just like the trauma that they go through, but also finding each other and getting closure with some of their past and just being able to really be there for each other through this experience. I think it does a lot of good. Also, it's like, you know, talking about how dangerous like conversion camps and wilderness therapy and all of those different therapy programs that don't really have a lot of solid background and not a lot of great reviews, if you will, for lack of better words to say it. But I think that Courtney Good did a well done job handling the topic. Also, it's creepy, and I really enjoyed this. It does a lot of interesting, unique horrors that I really liked, but I will take you to my Summerween video if you're interested in those thoughts fully. Next book that I listened to was the book Censored Library. This is a novella similar to Fahrenheit 451 and also 1984. Very closely resembles 1984 in some ways that I think was a bit of a detriment to the story because it didn't quite feel super unique and fresh. But I also didn't hate it. It was kind of a mid-story for me. I do see a lot of like purpose for it and a lot of joy talking about books being censored and a guy going into work. His job is to read books and make sure that the stamp of approval, like no religion is mentioned or anything that is against the society's rules. And that's kind of his job, but then he kind of backdoors into a bit of like almost, I guess, the rebellion in a way, but it doesn't go the way that he hopes. And I thought that it was an interesting story overall, but it wasn't one that super hooked me or grabbed me. And I think that might also be because I actually read 1984 earlier this year. So it's pretty fresh in the mind, and so I wasn't able to like really give this its own room to breathe without comparing it to George Orwell. Then I carried on my Ali Hazelwood reads. I read 2 of the backlists that I've been meaning to get to for a while. The first one I read, Not in Love. This book is hot garbage. Don't read it. Skip over it. I read it because I was like, I'm reading Problematic Summer in Love. No. Problematic Summer Romance. I'm gonna read that. So I have to read the first book because obviously it's going to matter. Don't do it. It's so hot garbage. I hate Eli. I hate him so much. He's so creepy. He's like love bomby. He's honestly every walking red flag you can look for in a man. Like, do not date a man like this. He is terrifying. The way that he is so obsessed with her from the beginning, and it's not even just her. He feels this way towards any woman he's ever dated. Like, dates a woman and is instantly like, I must marry her. I must, tie her down. I need her for life. And he's so obsessive, it's creepy. I do not understand the appeal of him whatsoever. Rue was fine. Her narrator for the audiobook was exactly how you would picture Rue. Very monotone, not a lot of emotion, doesn't really care about anything. Not very engaging of a main character to follow because she was just so bland in so many ways. And I was like, girl, you're so boring. I don't care that you're grumpy. I thought the plot was interesting. You'll find maybe 5% of this book being the plot of like, girl in science has a patent. Hedge fund investors come in and they're interested in the patents and whatever. The plot was so much of a nothing burger. It took us so long to set it up and then to get to the end. Nothing happened in between except for like a weird secret, not really dating. I hated them. I hated them so much. This was by far my least favorite book of the entire month. And to follow that up with Problematic Summer Romance, an age gap romance following Eli's sister and Eli's best friend. Girl who does not like age gap romances ate this up. It was so good, and I do think 85% of the reason I love this so much is because the narrator did a fantastic job for Maya. She felt so young while still not feeling like a child. And I think there's a very fine line of like, if you're gonna have a young 20-something dating an older man, there's a very fine line of not infantilizing her, not making her seem like an actual child. And although there is a couple jokes about like age gap in their relationship, it didn't really bother me too much, but I really liked Maya as a character and her sense of humor and the way that she dealt with everything just was so well done. This setting is Italy at Eli and Rue's wedding. Eli was significantly better in this book, probably because he's marrying the girl and you're not getting his perspective. So I did like him more. I really liked Connor as well. I just was like, okay, this is surprisingly one of my favorite reads from the month. I truly don't know how it happened. This is so unexpected for me, but I really, really ended up enjoying this. I do recommend Problematic Summer Romance. Do not read Not in Love. That one sucked. And if you want a little look-sees into my August TBR, one of the books that I'm going to read is Unbound by Hazelwood, which is the like companion to Bound, which was like the vampire forgery story, which I thought was really cute. So I'm excited to see Unbound and what happens in there. Anyways, now we get into the 17 books that I read. And when I say 17, that sounds like a lot. It seems like I read a lot of pages because I read like 4,000. I didn't really read that many because it was graphic novels. I do not subtract or like divide my pages when I read graphic novels on my personal tracker. I just keep it as what would be logged on any tracking app. But if you're unfamiliar, Heartstopper Volume 6 came out, as well as Heartstopper Forever. I have been highly anticipating this for so very long. I love the series. The series means so much to me. It's truly a blessing to have in my life and a curse that it has to end. I am so proud of Alice Oseman and everything that has come her way and just the way that they got to experience their work come to life on a screen, and just everything about it has been phenomenal. I am a big fan. It means the world to me. With all of that said, I hit a really low point in the month of July, and this is the series that I was using as a crutch to help get me out of it, but also is kind of sinking me in deeper because like, wow, I'm so single and so alone. I have no friends. Like, so seeing Nick and Charlie and their friend group, I was just like, wow, wouldn't that have been so cool to have like in high school to like carry on in college to my adulthood. I was feeling a lot of things and I won't go too much into it because that's not what this is about. But because Heartstopper Volume 6 came out, I of course had to read Heartstopper Volume 1 through Volume 5 so I could read Volume 6 because of course. And then I watched the show and the movie all in anticipation. And then I did it again. I read all volumes 1 through 6 again, once physically through, once through webtoons. So that took up a bulk of my reading for probably 2 weeks, if not less. But then I also read the mini comics that are on webtoons in between. And then I also listened to This Winter, which is the Christmas, I guess, novella. It's a little bit shorter than a novella. In between that follows Charlie, Tori, and their little brother Oliver in the books. And then I kept going. So I read Nick and Charlie. This is the novella that's following Nick and Charlie in their final year. This is a part of Heartstopper Forever. If you have not read this and you were confused about some of the events in the movie, it came from here. Heartbreaking, but very good. I think the narrators also do a pretty good job, seeing as like I canonically am like, well, now it's Kit and Joe forever, but I do think that the narrators did a pretty good job for this, and it was very fun, but also a little sad. And then, of course, thank you so much, Daphne, for gifting me the box set of Alice Oseman. I then read Solitaire, which is Tori's book, if you are unfamiliar. This was my first time reading Solitaire, somehow, some way. This is Tori Spring's book. This is also Alice Oseman's debut book. So this is the first one that she came out with, and this is the start of it all. This is where they got the idea of Nick and Charlie, because they are side characters in here. This was so much fun. It's not quite 5 stars like the graphic novel series is, I think, just because when you have a visual, it kind of amps up the feelings a little bit more, especially if you have a hard time picturing stuff. Graphic novels are a great way to like see what the author intends. But I was visioning most of this like a movie in my head. I really like Tori Springs as a character. It was really nice to see her and Michael's connection, seeing as, again, I watched this show, so being able to see Michael and know more about them and like the lore behind it, I really liked what this had. It's basically following Solitaire, who is like a mysterious prank anonymous person at their school. This really helped me with like the book hangover for finishing the graphic novel series, of just staying in the world still. I would love to read Radio Silence next, because this is also set in the same Alice Oseman Heartstopper world, but it's following Alid in, I think, university. I don't think we're gonna see any of the other characters. I don't think like Nick and Charlie are gonna make an appearance, seeing as it's later in life. But either way, it's still the same world. It's still just as comforting. I would like to read all Alice Oseman before the year ends, just because I really adore them as an author. They're one of my favorites. So yeah, that was a really big chunk of my reading, was just like experiencing all of the Heartstopper characters over and over again. I just didn't want to leave. I have a really hard time saying goodbye, and this really made me confront like why I'm so bad at finishing series, because I really don't like the end of things. I'm bad at starting stuff, but I also really hate to finish things. I hate saying goodbye and like losing that thing that brought me joy and comfort, which happens like when I play video games, like Expedition 33. When that ended, I was like, what do I have to live for until I find the next like thing that excites me? I feel this way when I finish Dropout seasons on Dimension 20. Like anything of the sort, like anything that I'm like super engaged with, I have a really hard time stepping away from that and like feeling human again. So I was really struggling with like already being in a bad place and then like saying goodbye to these characters in this world, and it was a lot, but it also kind of got me out, as you can maybe tell. I'm very talkative, I'm smiling, I'm feeling so much better than I had 2 weeks ago, a week ago, so it's one of those things where it's gotten me through another hard spurt in my life, but also lightly contributed. It was a weird thing to go through. But then I have 2 more books that I want to talk about. We've got, oh god, I am so disappointed about this one. I read the new Lauren Kate. If you haven't heard somehow, I've talked about it so many times on the channel, I read the Fallen series. I reread the books and finished the series for the first time ever. I'm saying goodbye to a lot of series this year. When I found out on Joanna's Instagram story that Lauren Kate had a new book coming out this year, I was like, I must have manifest. I somehow brought this into the universe. That's crazy. And then I read it. I listened to the audiobook. And apparently this is set in the same world of Fallen. So you already are going into it knowing angels exist. You know that angels are going to play a part in this stupid book, okay? Okay. This, I get so mad thinking about, maybe this is my worst book. I really don't know. I have a lot of vitriol for both of these books. White Light is following a girl who, after the tragic incident that happens to her brother that lands him in the hospital, gets invited to this secret, prestigious film school because she loves film. She loves cinematography. She is invited to the school. She has to make her decision same day because she's on the run for this crime, which there's no evidence except for she was there where her brother was. And so somehow everyone's like, well, the cops are going to arrest you if they find you. Like, obviously, you're the most wanted. So it's probably for the best that you go into hiding at this school. Sure. Okay. And then she is chosen after a mini tiny little trial that's so deadly. Tiny little trial. She is chosen to be mentored by this man, the same man who invited her to the school. And we see the process of She has to make films. She does not get to choose the assignment. She just has to do them. And she feels a calling to make a film for her brother, but she also has to do her own assignment that was given to her, so she's kind of doing two things at once. I don't want to spoil what happens in this book because it's a new release, and that's not fair. If I read this a few months from now, I would maybe feel a little bit more just doing so, but I just want you to think for 5 seconds that you know that this book is about a film school and angels. And I want you to know that you don't hear the word angels until about 60% into this book when everything is explained, but we, the reader, we figure this stuff out from the beginning because it's so easy to put together. And somehow we get to the almost end of the book and she just finds out about these angels and what the school really means and what the purpose and point of everything is. And it was so anger-inducing. It was so pointless to read so much of this book where I knew so much more than the main character for so long, and I was just like, why are we doing this? Why are we here? What is the point of this? Oh, I was so mad. So much of this book is so unnecessary. I think Lauren Kate has a really hard time translating into adult romantasy. I think they've been writing like some contemporary in between Fallen and the Teardrop duology, and those are also young adult. This is like, I think, the first dip into adult romantasy, and let me tell you, nothing is adult about this except for they do a whole lot of hanky-panky, and it's not even good. It made me so uncomfortable. I did not like any of it. I never bought into their relationship. It was so insta-love for nothing. Oh, this book makes me so mad. There was so much potential for this to be fantastic, and I will say, the ending really popped off and was kind of exciting, and I was like, well, wait. I don't know if I'm going to continue. I'm so disappointed by this one, and I am so upset that I read it, and just, Lauren Kate, where did the spark go? I know that there's a chance that nostalgia was blinding me when I reread the Fallen series, but this was just bad. It was bad, guys. I do not recommend. And then the final book. We're ending on a weird note. I have no clue how to talk about this book. I listened to Super Castle Fun Park by Daniel Zamparelli, and this is kind of following 3 characters, but also you got these 3 main characters, and then you're kind of branching off to see like other characters in this world that they're related to in some way, and they're all really into playing this mobile phone game that has a carnival and is like an MMO and is an interesting premise. And then there's also like the supernatural and the ghost and the pattern, and I genuinely don't know how to talk about this book. It is so weird. I don't think that I understood a lot of it. I thought the audiobook was pretty well done. I read this because I got it on Libro FM with their ALC program because I was interested in it. I was like, why not give it a try? I like amusement parks. I like circus. I like carnivals. That's like one of my favorite things. I thought this was going to be a lot more horrific. I just genuinely like don't know what the point of this book was, and I did not unfortunately find it very funny. I ended up giving this like 3 stars. Like it's very like middle of the road. Nothing fantastic, but nothing bad either. It's not like something that objectively upset me like some other books. But I also never really understood the point. I didn't really know why we were doing things. It feels very character study. You've got one guy who is taking care of his sick aunt, whose boyfriend is like scared to go outside, and then there's this girl that they play with who like kind of bullies them a little bit on the game, and it's just like it's a very weird book. I really like the people who I've seen read this and like have given it reviews have really enjoyed it, like 4 and 5 stars across the board, like really liked it and it really worked for them. I just don't think I got it. I just don't think like it worked for me. I think I was missing something from it and I couldn't tell you what. It was a very strange experience and I don't know what I read, but I didn't hate it at the same time. It's got a very cute cover. I liked it generally, like it wasn't bad. I don't know. Something about it. Strange, you know? But that was the final book that I finally finished. It took me a while. I started it during summerween, but didn't get far enough to like include it in the video and just, finally finished it by the end of the month. But it was very strange. It was different. It was not what I expected. The other 2 books that I read didn't talk about are going to be in an upcoming video. I've talked about it before if you're paying attention. But anyways, yeah, that's it. I read a lot of books, but not really, But I feel like pretty happy with what I read. It was something that I definitely needed, and it was just for me, for the soul, if you will. But now we're locked in again. Our August is happening. I have a lot of video vlogs that I'm working on, just a lot of projects in general. So I'm very excited for many of the things going on. But yeah, that's everything that I read in the month of July. How was your reading month? I hope that it went well for you and that you had found a new favorite. I would have to say my favorite of the month was for sure Heartstopper Volume 6. This is just like a beautiful way to wrap up such a gorgeous story that I'm just absolutely so obsessed with, and I'm just so happy to live in a world where I get to experience books like these coming out and just seeing queer joy for the youth. I love it. Anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out with me. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in my next video very soon. Bye.